Hello YouTube! Today I'm going to show you a game I played last Monday. I played this game against a player rated 1650 or maybe just 1700, so I should win this game. Well, I did, but the way how I did win the game was just so nice that I want to share it with you. Okay, it starts off with pawn to d4, knight to f6, so preparing to get in maybe lines with g6 or either e6 and getting bishop out, though those are not the lines I prefer. So let's continue. c4, and here I played the Budapest Gambit, that is pawn to e5. Okay, here are two ways white can respond. There are more, but most common are pawn takes or pawn moves to d5. And both ways are well known for black to have sufficient counterplay against white's center. So my opponent took the pawn, I played the correct move, knight to g4, knight to f3 and bishop to c5, of course coordinating both of my pieces to f2, where actually is only one response, and my opponent played it. Pawn to e3, and from here on I just played the Budapest Gambit lines further, so knight to c6, attacking the pawn on e5, which I will win back very soon. Okay, my opponent played bishop to e2, which is a very common line, just giving back the e5 pawn and trying to get some development back, which white will get. Okay, so I took the pawn with my knight from g4, because otherwise it will be harassed by a pawn like h3. So from here on my opponent played knight b to d2, which is a little strange. Normally here you would see moves like knight to c3 or a direct castle, but knight b to d2 you don't see that move that often, because it blocks in the bishop on c1. So here I started thinking, okay, from here off I'm not in my theoretical lines anymore, so what should I do? And of course I have the option to castle, to take that knight, but then my opponent will recapture with his other knight, and that would justify his move knight b to d2. So of course I'm not going to take on f3. So I was thinking here and thinking, and I thought, wait, maybe I can still get ahead in development if I sacrifice another pawn. So that's what I did. I played the move pawn to d5 here. Of course now it can't be taken yet, because I will recapture and have a very good position. My opponent noticed this, but so he didn't take my pawn, because if I was to capture on my next move, he can recapture with his bishop, and his bishop would be sitting comfortably on c4. Well, after of course this knight here on e5 is kicked. Okay, so my opponent castled, I castled, and now my opponent played knight to b3. Okay, maybe I underestimated this move a little bit, because it attacks my bishop on c5 and threatens to win the d5 pawn. But I played d5 for the reason so my c8 bishop would be very active. Okay, so from here I played bishop to d6, trying to attack the king side of the board. Of course there's the king of the opponent, so that's where I am heading. And here my opponent thought it was best to take my pawn with his pawn. I think it might be also a good try to capture it with the queen, because after moves like takes, no, well, that isn't such a good move, because the queen will here be defended by 2 pieces by then, so those aren't really options. I think queen takes would be okay. Well, okay, my opponent took with his pawn, and I was very happy that he did that, because now after knight takes knight check, bishop takes, and the other knight moves now to e5, I am coordinating all of my pieces to the king side of the board, where my opponent still lags in development and has a very bad knight here on b3, which should move to d4 later on. Well, actually he did that on his next move, and from here I started to attack the position with a move like queen to h4, threatening mate in 2 by taking on f3 and then on h2. So there are tactics already coming up in this position. So my opponent had to do something here, and he played the move pawn to h3. From this moment on I started to look to a move like bishop takes on h3 and trying to beat my way through there. But I already sacrificed a pawn, so I didn't want to sacrifice more material, because in this case if I would take, then I would have a pawn against a bishop, and that would not be very good for me. So in this position I played a silent move, bishop to d7, connecting my rooks, getting ready to play moves like rook to e8 and later on pawn to f5. My opponent responded with rook to e1 and I played rook to e8. So all of my pieces are now coordinating to the king side of the board, as you can see. This is a very serious and heavy attack, and it will pay off very soon, as you will see, because this game only lasted 17 moves, after which my opponent resigned. Okay, here my opponent played queen to b3, trying to maybe get some counter attacks, and I wasn't feeling like giving up another pawn yet, so I played b6, after which my opponent plays the move which I already had hoped for, pawn to e4, which is not such a good move, because now I played pawn to f5, threatening to take the pawn, and then all of my pieces will be unleashed seriously on the king side of the board. For example, this pawn here will be a serious threat. So for example, what if I was to take here and for example white recaptures? Well, then here would be very easy lines actually, like knight captures the bishop. The bishop was protecting the rook at the moment on e4, so there is actually only one way to recapture, and that is with the pawn, because if recaptured with the queen, then I will have rook takes e4 or queen takes e4 or whatever move I would like. Well, actually this pawn is removed then, so queen takes isn't even an option. So pawn takes should happen after that move, and well, I think this will be a very quick checkmate. Trying to find it. Well, queen takes h3 and threatening all sorts of evil things here, like bishop to h2, and checkmate can't be far away. Okay, well, my opponent played a wrong move here, because this is already move 17 what is coming up now. So he captured the pawn, after which I of course recaptured, and now my opponent can't recapture the bishop, because then I will have knight takes on f3 and winning the rook on e1. So he resigned here, and in this position my engine says I'm not only up in material. Well, my opponent has 2 pawns for the bishop, but my engine told me I'm +7, which means I'm up a pawn and 2 pieces. Now, well, why is that? Well, my engine here says that the best move here for white should be pawn to g3, giving up voluntarily the bishop. After which this would be a standard continuation, but still trying to play the best for white. Well, as you can see, white of black is up and so much material now, black can't even lose. So let's go back to here. This is the final position. I will clear the lines. If anyone has some ideas for white, post them in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this game, and especially the attacking lines I created by placing my bishops on very good diagonals, a queen already on its place to attack, a knight close by in the center to also help out with attacks, and rooks with open lines to also help out with attacking. Okay, comments and questions on YouTube, and a good day to you all.